We will start soon. While waiting, let's say hello to each other in the chat box. Please write your name and location in the chat box. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the youth workshop, CEDAW Convention, Education and Gender in Digital Age. Before starting, let me draw your attention to the following things. Please mute your microphone and unmute only when you speak. Please keep your camera off during presentation and turn it on for the question and answer session. No recording nor capturing screenshots is allowed. You can write your questions in the chat box anytime during presentation. We will pick up your questions as much as possible later in the question and answer session. Please note that this event is recorded by the organizer. The organizer may let the participants leave the Zoom when it judges appropriate. This event will be canceled in case of any trouble or disconnection, which will not be recovered for more than 10 minutes. Let me start our NGOCSW67 virtual parallel event, Youth Workshop, CEDAW Convention, Education and Gender in Digital Age, organized by the Japanese Association of International Women's Rights, JAIWR. I am Kashihara Kyoko, a member of JAIWR and the moderator of this workshop. I am very happy to have you all with us here today. JAIWR is an NGO in Japan, established in 1987, aiming to promote and protect women's human rights based on the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, the CEDAW Convention. JAIWR actively works to conduct research and educational seminars to advocate for the full and effective implementation of the CEDAW Convention. It accredited a consultative status with the UN ECOSOC in 1998. In this workshop, 4 young members of JAIWR will present on the theme of gender and education in the digital age, as you see in the program numbers 2 to 5. Presentations will include cultural gap experienced in the study abroad program by a high school student, comparative research on STEAM education at women's universities in Japan and the Republic of Korea, gender issues and challenges in the medical workplaces by a medical student, and issues of conducting international gender seminar online. They will refer to some articles of the CEDAW Convention and the General Recommendation number 36. At first, we will start with the introduction on the CEDAW Convention and the General Recommendation number 36, associated with the CSW priority theme and the subject of this workshop, prior to the youth presentation. After the presentation, we will have question and answer session with the participants. You will have a chance to ask questions and speak about your ideas and suggestions on the theme of gender and education in the digital age. So please feel free to write your questions and comments in the chat box anytime during this event. Also, please indicate the speaker to whom you want to ask when you raise a question. Now, we will have the first speaker, Mitsuko, for the introduction of CEDAW Convention and education in an information age. Mitsuko, are you ready?
Yes, thank you, Kyoko. Is it okay to start?
Yes, please.
Okay. Good afternoon from Japan, and also I like to say that good morning and good evening to friends all over the country, all over the world. I'm Mitsuko Horiuchi. I'm member of the governing body and the chair of the International Affairs Committee. Perhaps I should say at first that I do not really follow the practice that Japanese government set up recently, the calling the name. Japanese government, the setup, the calling the name, the family name, the first, and followed by a first name. However, I just follow the old fashioned maybe. So therefore, I should say that Mitsuko is my first name. I'm Mitsuko Horiuchi, and I will make a kind of the introductory statement on this the session. So, dear friends, and I'm very happy to share with you my thought on the CEDAW Convention and education in the digital age. I'm doing a sort of, as I told you that I'm doing a sort of introductory statement of this workshop. In the interest of the time, I'm talking about the several important points. Just briefly, the first, foremost, at the beginning of our workshop, I'd like to stress the importance of human rights. This is because we are dealing with the women's rights or women's human rights, but in the digital age, we do feel that it is important to look at women's rights. Perhaps you could understand that, unfortunately, so many human rights violations via internet we can think of and we can see today. Human trafficking and child pornography and other types of sexual exploitation against women and girls, and so on and so on. So therefore, I should really stress at first the human rights are crucially important aspects to discuss at the digital age. Perhaps we need in the human rights the point that we need to focus on gender stereotypes, which is an obstacle to receive education in science and technology of girls and women. One high school student in the speaker will tell you this issue eloquently. Second, since digitalization is characterized by innovation and technology and science. So I think education is the key to empower women and girls, in particular in the science and technology fields. You can hear from a speaker initiatives taken by university, one in the Republic of Korea and another in Japan. And also you can hear from young speakers on the difficulties of the work-life balance. That is one of the important issue in gender equality in working life. At this point, here, I'd like to tell you the basic facts of the CEDAW Convention, although many of you may know. The CEDAW Convention was adopted in 1979 at the United Nations General Assembly some 40 years ago. CEDAW Convention, I would say, perhaps, I would say Magna Carta for Women's Rights. Now, 189 countries ratified the convention. Japan did it in 1985. Perhaps you may recall that 1985, very important conference, which is the Third World Conference, was held in Nairobi. This is one of the good examples that United Nations gave a great impact on the progress in gender equality at the member states. Furthermore, in 1999, United Nations Convention, CEDAW Convention, optional protocol was adopted. That was the almost end of last century. So this CEDAW, the protocol that established compliant and inquiry mechanisms for Convention on the Elimination of CEDAW Convention. Now there are 39 recommendations. So one of the recommendations is dealing with education. So you can hear from the speakers on the general recommendation that related to education. In this connection, I like to mention that CEDAW Convention has the general recommendations, 39, as I told you that. So perhaps, I must tell here that the CEDAW need to have more comprehensive way to look at the digital age. So maybe in the future, I do hope that the CEDAW do have the principle on the digital society. So then I like to say that the final words on the CEDAW Convention. And the CEDAW Convention, one of the perhaps difficulty is that a lot of the reservation on the CEDAW Convention, maybe that we have to look at the reservation of the countries to the CEDAW Convention, so that CEDAW Convention could implement fully and perfectly. So that I like to quickly conclude my speech. My final speech is that the CEDAW Convention does adopted the education in many, including many subjects, including education. However, the CEDAW Convention perhaps need to look at more comprehensively, the broader way in the present society, which is the digitalization. So therefore, perhaps in concluding my remarks, I would like to say that there are so many aspects in the digital, the digitalization and the digital age. So perhaps you could discuss what really we need to do more in the digital age to secure the human rights for women and girls. Thank you very much for your attention.
どんな感じになってるんですか？一泊二日でもう帰る。
Thank you very much, Mitsuko, for the introduction. From now on, our youth members will make presentations. The first youth speaker is Minao, a high school student and our youngest member. She will talk about her experience of study abroad. Minao, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, can you guys see this? My presentation? Okay, thank you. Hello everyone, my name is Mina Taguchi. I'm a third-year high school student in Japan. I'm very grateful and honored to have this wonderful opportunity. Today, I would like to talk about my valuable experiences studying abroad. It's about how I came to realize the real world is gender biased. Last year, from January through June, I stayed in Winter City, Canada, to study English as well as the Canadian culture at JAIWR High School. My host family was originally from Iraq, and I had a roommate from Brazil. I really had good experiences and discovered many things, which otherwise I wouldn't have found in Japan. After I came back to Japan, I had an opportunity to talk with my mother's friend, who has been a devoted member of the Japanese Association of International Women's Rights for years. Through the conversation with her, I realized that something that had puzzled me while studying abroad was related to the CEDAW Convention. It was really surprising for me that we women have such precious treaty. Immediately, I decided to join JAIWR and to participate in this workshop. Telling you the truth, before I went to Canada, I've hardly suffered from discrimination against women. Of course, I had some experiences that made me feel awkward in my daily lives, but I wasn't really aware of the discrimination, gender discrimination in particular. I have one good such example. My senior high school in Japan is co-ed, and as a school uniform, women must wear skirts and men must wear slacks. However, in winter time, as I ride a bicycle to go to school, I wanted to wear slacks, so I will not become sick. But according to school regulation, women must buy an extra tie and men's shirts when they want to wear slacks. In other words, women need extra money. Some have given up because of this reason. Do you think this is fair? I feel very awkward then. Also, even if women usually don't wear skirts in private, they were forced to wear skirts at school. The school rules made it difficult for students to choose their own fashion. However, after learning about the convention, I realized the reason for these rules was based upon social norms and customs, which girls should wear skirts and behave like girls. For a long time, grown-ups have told us to act like a girl, and as a result, I myself used to think it was normal for women and to stay home and to the housework and childcare. On the other hand, I remember that when a boy fell and wanted to cry because of pain, he was generally told boys shouldn't cry. He has been told that men should be strong enough not to cry. The CEDAW Convention stipulates that customs should be modified and both women and men should be freed from the stereotypes, a concept of the rules of men and women. The central principle of this convention is to eliminate discrimination based on gender and to create a truly gender equal society in which both women and men can live vibrant lives according to their individuality. Having learned customs and practices which the convention clearly prohibit my experiences abroad forced me to rethink critically about this gender issue. In Canada, as I said, I live with a host family from Iraq and a roommate from Brazil. My host family was mother and daughter who works as a social worker. They were Christians and went to Catholic church every week. On the other hand, my roommate from Brazil seems to be Protestant. I was surprised that even if they believe in same religion, their values and way of thinking were completely different. My host family always said to me, "Men are dangerous, don't talk to men." They didn't want me to go to the outside. On the other hand, my roommate had progressive thinking. She told me she was LGBTQ+, and she was an activist. She often disagreed with my host family. My host family had a negative opinion on same-sex marriage. Also, because of her religion, she was once told by host family, "You are thrown as sinful." In Canada, LGBTQ+ are commonplace among young people. I was surprised to know that many of my friends were LGBTQ. One of my friends is physically female, but male at heart. This is my friend who used the men's changing room when changing classes or gym class. I use they to call my transgender friends. Now, when I meet someone for the first time, I first ask their name and then their pronoun. A pronoun is a word that describes their own gender. If a person looks like a woman but is a man at heart, they may call themselves him, his, him. Also, many people write their pronouns in their profiles on Instagram. So, people who don't want to talk about their gender can naturally call each other by using their pronouns. In this way, I feel that young people in Canada and other countries understand and respect each other's gender. This is a picture of my friends in Canada. Before returning to Japan, the daughter of my host family suddenly told me, "When I was younger, I couldn't talk to men like the people around me, and I couldn't go to parties. I envy people like you." I feel that some rules from her religion and her culture have been bothering her for a long time. I think that she gradually had uneasiness because she couldn't do things that she wanted to do. It's indeed a difficult problem, isn't it? Actually, I didn't know that until I learned many things about CEDAW Convention. Her problems are not just of her own. I really think we all have the same problems within its Japan, Canada, or Islamic countries. Recently, I watched in the TV news that in Afghanistan, the Taliban have deprived women and girls of their right to education, despite the ratification of the CEDAW Convention in March 2003. Its principles have not been observed. It's so obvious that they violate the Article 10 of the Convention, which guarantees the equal rights of education. In addition, the Generation Recommendation number 36 of the Convention specifically states that gender equality in girls' education is also an investment in future. I was very shocked until now. I just took it for granted that every young people like me can go to school and take classes. Throughout the studying abroad, I also realized how convenient information days we young people live in. As a Z generation kid, I experienced the importance of the internet as a communication tool. For example, when deciding where to go abroad, I searched online trying to have as much prior knowledge as possible. When I came across the situation which made me happy or sad while studying in Canada, I often use WhatsApp or Instagram to talk with my family in Japan. Thus, I feel that the internet, which allows us to connect with anyone, anywhere in the world on the spot, is a strong ally. After returning to Japan, I enjoy chatting on Instagram as well as exchanging information online with the friends I made while studying abroad. I still keep in touch with my roommate and to talk about news in Brazil and various international topics with her. Through the internet, I often talk about things that I can't usually talk directly. Of course, there are things that cannot be conveyed in words, but I think it may be easier to communicate through the internet. Today, most Generation Z get their information from the internet rather than TV or newspaper. However, there's a lot of fake news and false information on the internet. I think that's one of our big problems. However, Japanese television program hardly picked up world news. I think the internet is a convenient way to learn about the world. Now, it's hard to find hijab issues in Iran or women's issues in Afghanistan in the news. You may not be able to get enough information from just the TV news. But on the internet, you can hear the real voice of people at real time and in places where a problem is occurring. While there's a lot of false information, there's also a lot of truth. Through the internet, I think we can help each other by connecting with the world by learning about the younger generation, demonstrating and fighting desperately for their rights. That's why I felt it was important to broaden our horizon through digital technology without believing in one piece of information. My view of the world was broadened by experiences a difficult culture for such a short period of 5 months, and by learning about CEDAW Convention. It made me realize the importance of building a gender-equal society. Also, I learned that you shouldn't wait for someone else to take action. It's important you initiate it yourself. We are the ones who live in future. I want to enjoy the future and make it a better place to live. I want to think about what I can do little by little. I want to know what kind of real situation women around the world were and how they are bravely fighting against discrimination against them. I'm sure that there must be something I can do too. I came to believe so. That's all for me. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Minao, for your presentation. Next speaker is Miku, a university student. She will talk about STEAM education at women's universities in Japan and the Republic of Korea. Miku, can you start your presentation?
Okay, please wait just a minute. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Miku Yamaji, a junior student at Meiji University. I'm so glad and honored that I have this opportunity to make a speech entitled Toward Gender Equality in STEAM Education, Some Efforts Made by Women's Universities in Japan and the Republic of Korea. Hereby, I will examine the current situation how Japan is attempting to support women students entering in the STEAM field. As you know, in recent years, STEAM education have become the major teaching method in science education. It aims at the integrated education of the 5 such disciplines as science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. And also, the General Recommendation number 36 of CEDAW Convention emphasizes STEAM education for women and girls in particular. I believe in this digital age, women should have the equal access of STEAM education to men. However, regretfully, Japan is far behind in this trend. In this presentation, I shed light on the efforts made by women's universities. Some comparison will be made with the case in South Korea, whose society is, just like us, deeply gender biased. First, please take a look at chart 1. This shows the percentage of female students in science and engineering faculties over the past 20 years from 2002 to 2022 in Japan. As you see, the ratio of female students in the faculties of science and engineering has stayed in very low level for these 20 years. And it is in those two faculties among various science fields that ratio of female students is considered particularly low. Indeed, as this statistic shows, the ratios have increased only by 2.1% in the Faculty of Science and 5.3% in the Faculty of Engineering. Indeed, this situation in Japan presents serious problem when compared with that in the world. Please take a look at chart 2. According to the OECD report, the percentage of female students in the science institutions of higher education in Japan is the lowest among OECD member nations. Surprisingly, the OECD average has reached up to 52% in science and up to 26% in technology, while the Japanese average is only about 27% and 16% respectively. It clearly shows how low the proportion of female science students is in Japan. As you know, Japan had ratified CEDAW Convention in 1985. The Article 10 of the convention prohibits the gender gap in education. It clearly states the elimination of the formulated concept of the roles of men and women in all stages and in all forms of education. And also, General Recommendation number 36 of the Convention, the right of girls and women to education, emphasizes that should be corrected. To put it differently, the existence of strong gender gap in the field of science education is a violation of CEDAW Convention. And this indicates the urgent necessity for us to overcome it to pursue the substantial gender equality. In the past several years, however, some attempts to improve the environment of women's science education began in both co-ed and women's universities. For example, several national and private co-ed universities have introduced a kind of women's quota in the university admission policy of engineering departments. President Kazuya Masu of Tokyo Institute of Technology emphasizes the significance of increasing the number of female science major students through women's quota. Currently at this university, the percentage of female undergraduate students is only 13%. He says that it is difficult to enhance flexibility and creativity in a group of same type of people. It is well proven that teams made up with diverse people produce better outcomes in the field of technological innovation. These trends of enhancing women's STEM education are spreading in women's universities as well. For example, Nara Women's University, which is a national university, has newly founded a School of Engineering in 2022. This is the first time a women's university has ever established a faculty of engineering in Japan. Another national women's university, Ochanomizu University, plans to establish Faculty of Transdisciplinary Engineering in 2024. The person in charge of the program commented, "It is a sort of chicken and egg situation that female students are not entering the engineering field because there are too many men in the field. However, we will change this vicious circle by creating an egg first at Women's University." On the other hand, in South Korea, it was as early as 1996 that an engineering school was established at Iha Women's University. This was indeed the first engineering department among women's colleges in the world. According to the Gender Gap Index by World Economic Forum 2022, South Korea ranks 97th out of 146 nations in education. As you know, it is a country like Japan where gender inequality is a serious issue. Please take a look at Chart 3. The OECD report tells us that in South Korea, women consist of 48% of the whole STEM students in science and 21% in engineering, while in Japan, 27% in science and 16% in engineering. Both figures are much higher than that in Japan. Is there any specific reason for this difference between Japan and South Korea? In order to locate what made such difference in both heavily gendered countries, let me further discuss similarities and differences of university policy on women's science education in the following three women's universities: Nara Women's University and Ochanomizu University in Japan, and Iha Women's University in South Korea. Let's start with the Faculty of Engineering at Nara Women's University, which was opened in 2022. Professor Fujita, Dean of the College of Engineering, explains the reason for opening the College of Engineering as follows. The ICT revolution has changed the focus of information technology from hardware to software. It ensured fewer barriers for women to become engineers. He further continues that since the Faculty of Engineering still has a strong image as exclusively male faculty, Nara Women's University is designed to expand opportunities for women. Thus, we were determined to create a model for women's engineering education. As Professor Fujita used the term ICT revolution, we can notice that the establishment of the Faculty of Engineering at Nara Women's University was in line with the times. However, the question of why now still remains, considering that the ICT revolution took place in the 1990s. Why did it take such a long time of about 30 years to set up an engineering department in Japan? One of the features of newly established engineering school at Nara Women's University is that it is modeled after two liberal arts engineering schools in the United States, Harvard College and Olin College of Technology. At these universities, 40 to 50% of the students are women, and the curriculum incorporates specialized engineering courses to liberal arts. Commenting on this, Professor Fujita said, "We realize that engineering colleges that based on general education have a higher percentage of women. That's the reason why we put liberal arts as a core of curriculum. There is no point in creating an engineering school that doesn't attract women," he said. A spokesperson of Faculty of Transdisciplinary Engineering at Ochanomizu University, which is scheduled to open in 2024, also explained as follows. We hope to improve the ratio of female students in engineering department by connecting the humanities to engineering fields, because it is in humanities where female students are prevalent. Thus, we will solve the shortage of female human resources in manufacturing and sciences. The naming of the faculty, transdisciplinary used here, means comprehensive knowledge that combines the knowledge of the humanities and social sciences with the knowledge of engineering. Thus, a closer look at engineering departments established at women's universities in Japan shows that they are highly motivated to eliminate the gender gap in STEAM education. Now, let's get back to my previous question. Why could Iha Women's University establish culture of engineering as early as 1996? What's the social background behind such early establishment? According to Professor Chun, it was not out of the desire of the students, but it's largely due to the trend of the times. It was a university choice for the future. The professor added, since the 1990s, the importance of science and technology has been emphasized. So this faculty was created out of the needs of the times and society. In the 1990s, we entered the era of the fourth industrial revolution, and the need for scientific knowledge was a decisive factor. Nextly, Professor Chun pointed out about the curriculum of the culture of engineering as follows. The university is making all-out efforts to nurture human resources which society requires in near future. Therefore, our curriculum is made to integrate knowledge in sciences to that in humanities. Thus, indeed, a model of STEAM education are introduced in women's universities both in Japan and South Korea. So far, we have looked at education in the field of engineering both in Japanese and South Korea women's universities, focusing on similarities and differences. It was particularly interesting to note that the type of education being promoted is similar, and that the establishment of the engineering college at Iha Women's University was driven by the demand of the times, just as in Japan. However, we still have two questions to be answered. First, why there exists such time lag in the establishment of engineering faculty between Japan and South Korea? Second, why there is a gap in the proportion of women studying STEAM fields in between both nations? I think the political situation in South Korea since the 1990s would provide a clue to these questions. As you know, President Dae-jun Kim took office in 1998. He has pushed a policy to enhance information and communication technology as a national strategy. It is to revive the economic depletion then. Indeed, he is highly credited for the country's digitalization. And also, it was under the Dae-jun Kim administration when the Ministry of Women's Affairs was established to promote gender equality in 2001. Thus, the time when Iha Women's University established the engineering department coincides the turning point in South Korean society. Under such circumstances, there might have existed strong impetus for Women's University to set up new curriculum of ICT as means of achieving gender equality. In contrast, since the 1990s up until now, the Japanese government has failed to take strong national strategy toward digitalization. And in the wake of it, it is said that we are far behind in the international development of ICT. Besides, we all are fully aware that Japanese government has also failed to initiate the effective policy toward gender equality. I have to point out that these failures by our government are the very reason for our delay of women's STEM education. Lastly, based on what we have discussed so far, I'd like to emphasize again that in this age of ICT, women's equal access to STEM education with men is a way to achieve gender equality. And as South Korean case indicates, in order to enhance STEM education for women and girls, it is necessary for the government to provide institutional and financial support as a national project. So, in conclusion, I do hope that Japanese government is able to put those policies in near future. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Miku, for the presentation. Next speaker is Yuna. She's a medical student. She will talk about the gender bias in the medical workplaces. Can you start your presentation, Yuna?
Yes, thank you, Kyoko. I am Wait. Stop. Hello, my name is Yuna. It is such a great honor to have this opportunity today. I am a medical student in Japan, and I've studied CEDAW Convention for 4 years, and this is the third time of participation to NGOCSW. I'm so glad that the theme of this year relates to my expertise, and I hope you all enjoy today. So let's get started. First of all, I have a quiz here for you. One day, there was a car accident, and the family, a father and his son, was injured so severely that they were brought to the hospital. On their arriving at the hospital, the surgeon doctor looked at the sign and said, "I can't take care of this boy. This is my son." Hold it. Who is the doctor? Of course, it's his mother. She was surgeon at the hospital. There is actually an experiment conducted in Boston involving 300 students. Just 40 to 50% of them could give the correct answer. This is a quite famous quiz, and many people often try to find a way to explain the situation reasonably, like the son's mother had divorced and remarried, so the surgeon was son's first father. The word surgeon makes you imagine a male doctor. This story is very much indicative of today's topic. Here, I'd like to show you the number of doctors in Japan. 85% of ER doctors are male, and in general surgery, 93% of doctors are men, 94% of the vascular surgeon, neurosurgeon, and orthopedic surgeon are men. Those three departments record the worst. Yes, the reality definitely influences people's understanding, probably creating the prejudice that the surgeon is a man. As we all know, that we have such unconscious biases and the stereotypes toward gender images all over the world. The medical field in Japan is one of the most stereotypical places where women often face difficulties keeping their job because of being women. So today, I'd like to discuss what is happening in Japanese medical field from the educational stage to professional phase. Here is my agenda. 1. Gender bias in medical education. 2. Gender bias in medical workplaces. I'm showing the same topic below. And the first one is mommy truck induced by support measure for female doctors. And secondly, fatherhood premium and motherhood penalty. Thirdly, an equal opportunity to cultivate skills. Pitfall of female doctor support. Okay, the first thing is the gender bias in medical education. When you Googled medical education and medical gender problem in Japan, I'm pretty sure that the fraudulent entrance exam of several universities is going to be the very first thing that catches your eye. Those frauds were unveiled and reported in 2018. Tokyo Medical University, which is a private one, manipulated entrance exam score, giving additional score to male students in order to accept more male students in universities and exclude female students. And 3 more universities were found that they were discriminated against women in the entrance exam. Why did they do such things? Some people in charge of exam at Tokyo Medical University tried to justify this and said that women have such significant life events like pregnancy or reproduction, which could disturb focusing the job, acquiring techniques, and progressing careers. While male doctors can occupy important positions which support and contribute to universities or graduate schools. How do you feel about this statement? Personally, I was stunned and had no word for it. So I'm going to take a close look at the excuse. From a legal perspective, Japan has a law that says we ought to give equal opportunity to all gender. It's totally wrong to unqualify women from the entrance exam because of those life events. Gender discrimination at the exam could infringe on the Constitution of Japan, Article 14, which says, all people are equal under the law, and there shall be no discrimination in political, economic, or social relations because of race, creed, sex, social status, or family origin. Article 26, all people shall have the right to receive an equal education corresponding to their abilities as provided by law. Of course, it was also an infringement of against the CEDAW Convention, Article 1, Article 5, and Article 10. However, unfortunately, the university's statement exactly describes the present social situation in Japan. Later, we will dig into this more. By the way, we rarely have the substantive biases in classes when you're studying at the medical school. Instead, unconscious bias and the stereotype notion with no offense are infested. For example, one day my professor said, let's think about the situation. You are scheduled to carry out the operation from at 8 a.m., but in the morning, you found your child, age 3, has a fever. How are you going to deal with the situation, girls? And then the professor passed the microphone only to female students to get ideas. Other example, when I talk with doctors and tell them I want to be a surgeon or ER doctor, they say, oh, that's great, but it's going to be very tough for girls, and maybe you need to give up your children. Right. There are often conversations based on gender, based on gender bias without noticing and with no offense. However, what those doctors tell me is an actual present reality in medical workplaces in Japan. So from now, let's move on to gender bias in medical workplaces. Recently, our government has been struggling to promote more girls to choose in the major STEM faculty, and thanks to that, gradually the number of female medical students has been increasing yearly. Yeah, this is great and really hopeful, but we need to pay more attention to workplaces. The question is, how women can develop their careers along with marriage and childbirth. I mean, how we can guarantee work-life balance for all doctors. Every year, about 50,000 students become a medical student. About 60% of them are male and 40% are female. In the case of examination for the national doctor license, The pass rate of the female examinee was 93%, and that of a male was 90% in 2022. But the number of working doctor totals more than 80% of them are men. Therefore, not only in educational stage, but we also need to care more about the gender gap in medical working phase. Now I'm going to show you specific situations working as a doctor. But first, I want to ensure what CEDAW Convention Article 5B says. It follows as to ensure that family education includes a proper understanding of maternity as a social function and recognition of the common responsibility of men and women in upbringing and developing their children. It's being understood that the interest of the children is a primordial consideration in all cases. I will actually give you a conclusion today now, because maybe the following information could be a little complex. I want you all to remember at least this point. Its support measure for women could end up justifying stereotypes gender roles even more. Therefore, the most required and indispensable measure should be support for men. Okay, the first topic is mommy truck induced by support for female doctors. Women are also the primary labor at the home in the medical field. One investigation suggested that women who get married are likely to have no choice but to shorten their working hours as a doctor, while it's going to be possible and more manageable for men to work much longer after they get married. Once women have children, they are only allowed to work much shorter hours. This means that men can work longer because they can leave household chores to their wives. On the other hand, women get more chores burden, which makes them give up working long hours and progress in careers. And female doctors who use a child rearing support system could reduce labor hours or have a flexible schedule, but at the same time, they may fall into mommy truck. Mommy truck is actually a path that prioritizes being a mother, and it also refers to arrangement for women in workforce that facilitate motherhood, such as flexible hours. But as a result, they are provided fewer opportunities for career advancement. The second topic is fatherhood premium and motherhood penalty. The problem is not only working hours. Male surgeon works 91.5 hours per week, and female surgeons do 76.1 hours per week in Japan, which means $11,000 less annual income for female doctors than males. Additionally, male doctors may earn $8,200 more annually when they get married. In contrast, women lose $5,500 per kid, which shows that the woman's income doesn't increase after marriage. It's called fatherhood premium and motherhood penalty. The fatherhood premium means men can increase their income just by being a father. The motherhood penalty means being a mother results in lower wages and income. What can be possible reason for that? Women may tend to or must choose a hospital based on how much more family-friendly the hospital is, over career or income. Or they may have no choice but to put the priority on accessibility, such as how close the hospital is to the kindergartens. The third point is unequal opportunity to cultivate skills, pitfall of a female doctor support. Recently, one interesting paper has been published. The paper used a national clinical database in which more than 95% of the population data in Japan are registered. They analyzed 6 gastroenterological surgeries, then discovered that women carried out fewer operations in every 6 kind of them. the more complicated procedures are, the more notable the difference is. Years of experience are also the factor that divides a number. The unequal opportunity of training for surgery consequences rest female gastroenterological attending doctor. From 2007 to 2009, Japan's education ministry started a campaign program to support female doctors. Some medical universities and hospitals participated in the campaign. The program was meant to prepare kindergarten for medical staff and promote short working hours and night duty exemption exactly for supporting female doctors. This campaign might provide women with a women-friendly environment in working places. I mean, a supportive environment for women to balance childcare and career. But it would also convey a message that childcare and household chores are women's duty. And at the same time, it has widened the labor hours gap between women and men and has strengthened the stereotypes gender roles, then driven women to the mommy trap. Today, I have discussed several difficulties that female doctors face in their careers. But as you all know, unfortunately, they happen in every single occupation. Women's short working hours or exemption from night duty is a spontaneous measure during transition periods. The most required solution, rather than the female doctor support, will be male doctor support, enabling them to participate more in domestic work. With this initiative, we can finally expect sustainable women's empowerment and secure both men and women. I define gender equality as equality of choice. Everybody should choose and decide what they really want to do and who they really are. Therefore, I firmly believe that regardless of gender, those who wish to carry out many operations and cultivate their skills as a dog surgeon should be able to do so. Those who want to work not so hard and want a rich experience should also be allowed to do so. Equality of choice and opportunity should be available for all. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much, Yuna, for your presentation. Let me see. Okay. Then the last presentation from the youth member. Next speaker is Mayuko.
Yes.
Could you please start your presentation, Mayuko?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Kyoko. I will share my screen.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to give this presentation today. My name is Mayuko Ueno. I am a youth member of JAIWR, and I'm working at Kitakyushu Forum on Asian Women. Today, I will talk about online training on gender mainstreaming for government officers in developing countries, conducted by K4, where I'm working. This training is conducted to help promote gender equality in government policies and programs in developing countries. In my presentation, I will talk these 5 contents. First, let me explain the Kitakyushu Forum on Asian Women, where I'm working. K4 is an NGO based in the Kyushu region, accredited by UNGOCSW. K4 was established in October 1990 as an organization with the aim of improving the status of women in the Asian region. Next, I will explain K4's training program. K4 conducts JICA's Knowledge Co-Creation Program, Gender Mainstreaming Policies for Government Officers, commissioned by JICA. JICA is an agency responsible for Japan's ODA. K4 is an executing agency for this gender training. We design the curriculum and manage the training. This training program has accepted 487 participants from 91 countries between 1992 and 2022. K4 conducts this training twice a year. The objective of this training is to promote gender mainstreaming in organizations participating in this training. In this training, we provide the basic concept and the methods of gender mainstreaming and good practices or the situation of Japanese central and local government and various fields for gender mainstreaming. According to recent statistics between 2003 and 2022, the participants by sex of this training is 62 male and 157 females, showing that female participants account for 70% of the total number of participants. According to JAIWR Kyushu's participants acceptance recorded by sex for fiscal year 2018, 70% are male and 30% are female. It can be said that this gender training has a large number of female participants. What do you think this means? I think it can be said that the sex ratio of the staff composition of government officers working for promoting gender equality is that there are more women officers than men. The target organization of this training is National Machinery for Gender Equality, which means that Central Policy Coordination Unit for Gender Equality, and the Gender Unit or department responsible dealing with gender questions in other ministries. Promoting gender mainstreaming needs to be addressed by all sectors, not just the national machinery. This training is offered to national machinery and other ministries in order to promote gender mainstreaming more effectively. After 2020, in-person training could not conducted because of the restrictions on entry into Japan from overseas due to the COVID-19 pandemic. During the pandemic from 2020 and 2022, K4 conducted online training 5 times in total. Based on my experiences of conducting online and in-person training, I will look at the more effective ways of training. Please note that this presentation is my personal opinion based on my experiences in conducting the training. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, I was a member of in-person training program team from 2018 to 2019. Based on my experiences, I'd like to talk about the benefits of in-person training. First, I will talk about the benefits of in-person training. Unlike the online training, in-person training including field trips. Through field trip, participants can complement the content of what they learned at the lecture. In this training, we have the lecture of women and violence, and this lecture contains field trip. The photos taken when participants visited the consultation room at the Kitakyushu Municipal Gender Equality Center, MOVE. MOVE has a consultation service called MOVE Counseling Room, which provides general counseling on gender-related human rights, violations such as domestic violence and sexual harassment, counseling on employment, free legal counseling, and telephone counseling for men. In this lecture, participants learn the issue of violence from the perspective of victims and the government. In addition, through the field trip, participants can actually see the consultation room and know about the consultation environment. Hereby, let me show you one example. How are participants actually using what they learn from the in-person training for their own work? This is a case of a former participant who works as a counselor at the hotline to help women victims of gender-based violence in Palestine. The Palestinian Authority for Social Development has established a hotline for women suffering from domestic violence to respond to their increasing needs during the quarantine due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The former participant who works as a counselor at this hotline is able to deal with women victims of GBV more effectively using the knowledge from this training, listening to the voices of GBV victims and advising them to action to take. In cooperation with the police and the protection facilities as offshores of the commitment ministries. Next, I will talk about online training during the COVID-19 pandemic. Online training was conducted temporarily 5 times in total between 2020 and 2022 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. There are 2 ways to conduct online training. One is pre-recorded video lectures using YouTube, and another one is live lectures using Zoom. First, I'll explain the benefits of online training. There are 2 benefits. One is that online training reduces travel costs. So, online training is an effective way for people who tend to be left behind attending the in-person training, such as people with disabilities who have difficulty moving and people with family responsibilities, such as caregiving and childcare. Some participants in this training program also join while raising their children, but they have to leave their children with family members or acquaintances for about 1 month. However, online training does not need to travel, so participants can attend the training while continuing to raise their children in their home country. It could be said that online training is an effective way for those who were difficult to participate in in-person training due to family responsibilities. As mentioned in the CEDAW Article 10, elimination of discrimination in the education, it can be said that by utilizing the ways of online training, it is possible to eliminate discrimination against those who have not access to educational opportunities for various reasons. The second benefit of the online training is about pre-recorded video lectures. Participants can play back videos many times. It could deepen their understanding of the lectures, and also they can choose the time to watch the lectures according to their own convenience. Participants attend online training from their countries, so it is difficult for them to attend live lectures when they have an urgent meeting or they are on business and so on. So pre-recorded video lectures are a good way for them to choose the time to watch. In any case, online training or in-person training, it could be said that we can continue to make use of the benefits of pre-recorded video lectures. We will continue to make use of the benefits of online training. On the other hand, one of the issues of online training is internet connection of the participants. If the connection is bad, they may not be able to connect to Zoom, or the video or audio may be unstable. It will be difficult for them to fully participate in the live lectures. Especially in developing countries, some areas do not have a good internet environment, so participation in live lectures is limited. As an example, in Fiji, the internet connection becomes very poor when it rains heavily. And there were several times participants couldn't join live lectures when the weather was so bad. As mentioned in the CEDAW General Recommendation number 36, right to education consideration for physical, technological, and economic access is necessary to ensure access to education. Especially in the case of online training, a stable internet connection is essential for participation in the training. However, in some of the developing countries participating in this training program, the internet environment and the supply of PC and other equipment are not sufficient, and access to online training is not ensured. In particular, in this online training, which we conducted, due to the time differences, some participants were unable to join in the training during office hours. So they had to join from home with poor internet conditions. Even in developing countries, the internet environment at the workplace is relatively stable, but the internet tends to be unstable in their home. In online training, there are communication issues because it's difficult to get the information about facial expressions, tone of voice, and the atmosphere of the place through the internet. So it can be said that there is a limit to their understanding the lecture through discussions. Through my experiences in training operations, both in-person training and online training, I could understand the characteristics and issues of each way of training. First, online training was a good way to continue the training during the COVID-19 pandemic. And also, online training is an effective way for those who were difficult to participate in in-person training due to family responsibilities, like caregiving or childcare. However, there are some issues left, particularly in terms of the internet environment problems. In current situation, it should be focused on the in-person training. It could be said that the mixture of online benefits and the in-person training is going to make the training more effective. Under any circumstances, gender mainstreaming and promoting gender equality are important issues in the world. I will continue to challenge to conduct better in training program. That's all for my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mayuko, for the good presentation. Let me see. Okay. Okay, now, after all the presentation, we have a question and answer session with the participants. And there is, I think there is one question in the chat box, but please write your questions and comments in the chat box, and also indicate the speaker to whom you want to ask. And also during the session, you can speak by your microphone to give your comments about the topic from the presentations. Okay, now Mitsuko will facilitate this question and answer session. Mitsuko, can you start this session?
Thank you, Kyoko. The question and answer session now will start. And I understand that we have now one question that received. And then I do not really see the answer. I think that one question goes to Aoki-san. Could you please, Aoki-san, reply to the questions that raised by Shindo-san?
Okay.
You don't need to speak, but you just put on you just write in
I
chat
think
box.
can...
But if you like, to share your answer to everybody, and I'm very happy that if you could tell that answer.
Okay.
Mm.
Just please give me a real second. The question is, could you tell us your personal experience of being treated differently because of gender after medical, which you may experience after medical education, maybe being treated, being treated differently? Because it's very hard question, because actually I am a medical student, and for student teacher treat us like just like equally, not like just people just don't, our teacher or professor don't judge us like woman or man, but so we have equal education, like equal opportunity to see population or like to involved in some basic medical techniques training. But when they talk to the student, yeah, I think I found like the professor or doctors recommend female student, tend to recommend the female student to have a children or to great work-life balance. So when I talk to the teachers, I want to work so hard, work so hard. I'm really want to get into it. They just so surprised. Oh, really? But when the male students say such things, right, just like me, just the things I said, the teachers just say, oh, great, like, you know, the reaction is different. The female student want to work hard, they say they don't like it, but the men student want to work hard, they welcome. So in my daily life, I feel like I can't judge it's a discrimination or just a conversation, but I think it's totally based on their gender biases, but they maybe don't notice it. So I really want to let them know, and then I'm always struggling to let them know this is what I'm experiencing in now. Thank you for your question.
Thank you very much for your, the oral answer. That means that you are treated differently. Then that related to some way that the family lives, but not the professional, the lives. That's what you say. And that the teachers or professors or whoever, that the perhaps that they are consider whenever you teach or you talk, they talk to you, that you reminds you of the family life, but they express their opinion or views on your family life, but not professional life. That's what you think, that you feel that in that way you are treated differently, but not professional, the life. That's what you say. Thank you very much for your very clear answer. Thank you. And then, is there any other question that? It's a very interesting. Ozaki-san, that one of participant, that the wrote that answer or their view, that that is really that kind of the unconscious bias. That's really great. And then, 堀口さん、Lisa, thank you. I could not see that any other questions. So in the participants, the speakers, that the young one, is there any questions each other, to raise? Perhaps you may have some questions or the comment that you have. So is there anyone who would like to share your views or opinions with others, or is there any comment that you'd like to raise at this moment to other speakers? Is there anyone? Not really. Perhaps you. So maybe, that's one of the questions that, they raised is unconscious bias. Is one of the questions that raised. So is there anyone who really want to talk about unconscious bias? First, the speakers. Japanese is okay. Taniguchi-san. You want to say something about unconscious bias? You said that already in your speech, that the women, girls are wearing skirt, and then the boys are wearing the pants. That kind of some kind of unconscious bias that you felt. That that is there anything that you'd like to add? After you hear from from Aoki-san's speech.
Yeah, I think unconscious bias.
Mm.
I experience also. Oh, wait. I didn't experience it. Unconscious bias in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because, as I said in my speech, the LGBTQ is really commonplace in Canada, so they respect each other and they understand themselves. But in Japan, I think it's not popular. It's about the LGBTQ. So I think unconscious bias and LGBTQ plus are really strong connect. So if we understand what is unconscious bias and LGBTQ, the problem will be really will solve more than one. And yeah, I think so.
Thank you very much for your comment. Would you like to say more? Really sorry that I just interrupt your talk. And if you'd like to continue to talk, could you please? I'm afraid that I interrupted your talk.
About unconscious bias or any what was the topic? Sorry.
You said that, the LGBTQ, if people, that something related to unconscious bias, and then if people can understand that, clearly that who are they, so they can, people can, what you're saying that, what what I understand, what you're saying that, you're saying that if people correctly understand that those people, so then perhaps unconscious bias may be.
Okay. And I have one more topics.
Okay.
As the Miss Aoki said, the teacher said the teacher doesn't think women should should focus on their the job than their healthcare or the women's job. Yeah, so I also feel that same things in high school. So because they don't say about really directly, but they think that because they have really elderly people as a teacher, so their bias for the women is kind of
来てるって書いたんだけど。
old. I don't know. Yeah, so
うん
they say like if the women should have child or women should know how to work at home. Women should know
うん
how to care of a child. So they don't care about our jobs. Kind of. So I also feel that. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. So thanks very much your comments. And then I found Ueno-san that the one question raised to Ueno-san.
Mitsuko, Little-san raised a hand.
Okay, sorry, I cannot see the
I noticed. So Little-san, can you speak?
Yeah, could you please?
Hello, can
Hello,
you hear me?
thank you.
This is just like a comment on the language or a thought I had on the language. And I was wondering if anybody has any thoughts on it or feels the same about unconscious bias. Just because I don't know, I feel like unconscious bias implies a little that whoever is sort of enacting the microaggressions or gender bias is has no responsibility because it's unconscious. I was wondering if anybody feels like there's something like the use of language there maybe is a little bit. I don't know, there's something that bothers me about the word unconscious because it implies that somebody who might be, causing frustration for you based on your gender, who might be discriminating against you, is not responsible because they're unconscious.
But one of the questions that perhaps someone could respond, clearly that unconscious bias is not a problem or is problem. Is anyone from the participant could raise that, could respond to that question?
Yes, can I skip?
Okay, could you please?
Yes, I really think the unconscious bias is a very big problem, especially in Japan, because as maybe someone, with those who have experienced that regard their so World Economic Forum's gender index, Japan Japan ranked so low, and about look at the education or medical gender equality, the Japan scored ranked high places. And then we actually have gender equality law and gender many laws for gender equality in the education and the medical and so many things. But actually we are not equal. It is why I think the answer is exactly the unconscious bias. Actually Japanese people really many people think, with no offense, like the men work outside and the women have a responsibility to deal with the household chores. Totally, it's the really basic things, the basic way of our understanding towards man and woman, and this we call it unconscious bias. Unconscious bias, I mean, I use unconscious bias I as like there's some recognition with no offense, but I actually really frustrated because people people don't mean to blame or don't mean to criticize someone, but they actually criticize based because of gender bias. But the speaker, the people who say such things doesn't realize that they are saying some discriminative things totally they don't know. So I really think that the people who can notice it should let other people know. I think it's exactly the solution to like eliminate unconscious bias. But I personally believe this is the most necessary things in Japan now, rather than the policy, like the role or policy from the government.
Thank you, Yuna. And I just do not recognize that, you know, that the previous, the speaker, previous people who made a comment on that unconscious bias, but Yuna replied beautifully, unconscious bias is one of the important issue or serious issue for the Japanese government even in the gender equality. So that the people who did unconscious bias, who did have unconscious bias, they may not, you know, have kind of intention to discriminate, but as a result, this is the conduct of the discrimination. So therefore, I think that, Yuna, thank you very much to explain the beautifully. And I'm very, very happy that, you know, young people do understand that the contents or the substance of the discrimination. Thank you
so much as well. Sorry, can I say something? Thank you for the response. I just wanted to clarify. I mean, I totally agree with you. And I think what my issue is, I totally agree with how people, you know, how people need to be more educated on things they might do that really affect people around them, and that is gender discrimination. And I think, I don't know, I guess what I was saying is sort of just like, my issue is that I don't want to say it's unconscious bias. I want to say that it's discrimination, and I want to say that you're responsible to educate yourself. Like, I should not have to take that unconscious bias from you. Yeah.
Thank you.
And thank you for everybody's presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for very, you know, the good intervention. And I'm very happy that, you know, that everybody do understand that the contents or substance of the unconscious bias. Thank you very much. And then, is there anyone? Ueno-san, you have one question. Could you please?
Yes. I got a question from Shindo-san. I read the question. Have you ever come across different treatment from your male colleagues at your working place? Yes, I have. About years ago, when I'm working the other place from this from working place now KFO, the male colleagues said to me, actually, you're going to quit your job in the middle of the, you know, the working life anyway, right? I felt this is really you know, rude question for me, because I am a woman. So the male colleague asked me like that the question, and he said, maybe you are really, you know, girly, so you are like you know, child care worker or nurse would switch you, and this is really, really, you know, a kind of unconscious bias. The girl or women going to be a nurse or the caregiving workers or the, you know, the other child care worker or something like that. And do you need to challenge yourself to get promotion, like to get the more do you need the career in your life stage, I felt this is the very kind of like unconscious bias, or the man tends to think about the women's working life stage, and also women needs to working at home, or the stay at home and do household chores, something like that. I felt this is very, very very bad old school tradition in Japan working place. I felt, that's all from my experiences.
Thank you very much. Replying to the one of question which is very much related to the Yuna's question, that the unconscious bias, that means that women assume to take family responsibility. Therefore, sometimes soon that women quit the job, then go to home. So that kind of, that some unconscious bias, or actually this is a discrimination, but we do understand that people do suffer from a kind of unconscious bias, but actually this is a discrimination against women. So thank you very much to share your reply, and then I think we do not have any more questions or comments in the chat box. And then perhaps already we spent almost 20 minutes, and then perhaps close to the meeting. The Kyoko.
Miss Horiuchi. Can I say something more?
Okay, so very briefly that we have, we need to close soon. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. The last question from the reader, I came up with another idea, and she asked me, thank you for your question, and she asked us that is there any responsibility for the individual? Maybe I thought that is there any responsibility for individual to educate yourself to fix the unconscious bias? Maybe I think each people have a responsibility to do so, but it's really difficult because the most people, like 90 or 80% of Japanese people just don't have such don't have knowledge about the gender equality. Like the very impressive or not impressive, but the one episode I can give you, for example, when my classmate, like boy college student or university student, bring their lunchbox, and then his friend looked at the lunchbox and said, "Oh, did your girlfriend make it for you?" But the girl student bring their lunchbox. Her friend just say, "Oh, you're really good at cooking." It's the reality of in Japan. Then no one has question for it. No one stop it. No one says something about the comment. Like then some people, like, it's me, but like, hey, why did you think that her girlfriend make it? Or how did you know that? Like it's totally based on unconscious bias, but the stereotypical gender roles, but like no, the conversation continues smoothly. So this is maybe the I thought that was a really good example to understand the situation you can.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I forgot to say, maybe I should have said, but I'm actually from Japan as well, and I totally understand your, like, I've experienced so many situations like that before, and I really appreciate that you're speaking out about it.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much, Yuna-san. And then I think the Miu-san, do you have any comment on something? Now, discussion is really focusing on the unconscious bias, so to say, that is a discrimination. So therefore, I just one more speaker that is there any Miku-san want to say something? No? If it is not, it's okay.
Thank you, Mitsuko-san. Yes, as I explained through my presentation, the ratio of female students is particularly low in Japan. And I think this and I think this is also related to
something related to
unconscious bias.
I see.
In the educational field in Japan, and when I was since I was an elementary school student, I actually wasn't good at mathematics and sciences. And then my mother said to me, and you don't have to worry about it because you are girls. And so sometimes I'm thinking even now, if I didn't accept these message which girls don't have to be good at sciences. I may have been good at sciences or mathematics. Yes, and so also educational field and unconscious bias is very serious issue. Yes, that's all.
Thank you very much, Miku. Now we recognize that we understand that all young people do have some sort of experiences in the unconscious bias. So therefore, perhaps that we need to look at the more that subject. But anyhow, all speakers, they talked about the unconscious bias and discrimination against women, so to say, male at work and female or women at home. So that is one of the fundamental, the problem that we have, that perhaps, that the participant could understand that the serious issue that in Japan we do have. So having said that, perhaps, that I better to close the question and answer session, and then Kyoko, I will return to you to go to the closing session. Thank you. Thank you for all.
Thank you, Mitsuko, for the session. And also, I see some comments in the chat box. So thank you very much for giving us your good comments. We had a very interesting, important discussion in the Q&A session. And I really think that it is very important to become conscious about the unconscious bias, I think. Okay. Now, it's time to close. So thank you for all the presentation and for all the kind participation. We had a very good discussion in this session. We hope this event is useful to you in providing good suggestions and inspirations for education and gender in the digital age. So you can see the link to the questionnaire in the chat box. So please submit your answers on this event. Your feedback is very much appreciated. Now we finish this workshop. Thank you very much for your participation. Thank you and goodbye.